Welcome to another episode of Down the Barrel Podcast with Jimmy and Dino.
And sometimes Jared.
Okay, today we are here with our special guest. We have Conservation Officer Anthony Bermel out of the Ely area. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Ely?
Yep.
Ely Babbitt?
Yeah, so my station designation is actually Babbitt. But
Okay.
I patrol Ely, Babbitt, and Barris out to Isabella. So
okay. So you got a pretty big remote area there.
Oh, yeah.
So you get to do some paddling then too in the summertime?
I do a lot of paddling.
Do you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's one of the things I love about that station is because I have a pretty good chunk of the boundary waters. And,
Right.
you know, so I do several camping canoe trips in there every summer patrolling. And
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
that's great.
So how many officers are stationed under there? Is it just you or a few
So
more?
just me. I mean,
Okay.
there's a couple other guys out of Ely, but we all go different directions.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, one guy kind of goes north and west, another guy just east, and then I'm kind of south. So,
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 So how many trips you get to take in the boundary waters every year then?
Last year, I think, was probably one of the best years I had. I did 6.
Oh, wow.
And I'm talking extended trips, like
Really?
3, 4, 5, 6 day type trips. So,
So
yeah.
you get to do legit boundary water trips there.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my favorites was a few years ago, Mitch Lawler. He's a CO down by Alexandria. We went through the academy together and are good friends. And he usually comes up and does a trip with me every year. And we did a through trip. So we started on the Ely side and then went right through the heart of the boundary waters and ended up coming out on Poplar Lake on the Gunflint Trail.
Oh, wow.
So
Cool.
that
That's a haul.
yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I go up there. I've been going up there every year since probably 90. So I love it up there. And I used to do a bunch of trips out of the Ely area. Lately I've been up by Orr, but
Sure.
so I'm sure you're familiar with the Numbered Lakes.
Oh, yeah.
Is, up to Alice. Alice was always my favorite. Have you been up there?
Alice is good.
I haven't been there in a while, but that was one of my favorite lakes. I spent a lot of time up there.
And of course I'm working when I'm in there, but it's a little bit different work and I'm in there
Right.
24 hours a day, but I'm not getting paid for 24 hours a day.
So you get some fishing.
So I
right?
do bring the fishing pole.
Right.
We do try to save the state a few bucks and eat some fish.
Well, yeah.
And Alice, this year I did a trip in, I want to say maybe the end of May or beginning of June and had a spot there where we pulled some really nice walleyes.
Oh yeah,
out.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Like I said, it's been a few years for me, but as a kid growing up for about the first, I would say 15, 20 years, we always went up to Alice, and
Sure.
I loved all the campsites on there and some of the good fishing spots on that lake. So
Yeah. And one of the things I like doing up there is just trying to do something, different. I want to kind of see it all and patrol it all. And of course I spend a lot of time in my station, which is more like Quishway River and Gabbro, Bald Eagle, Lake Isabella, that country, which is actually, I love that area. It's great fishing, some nice scenery and pretty busy in there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, although it's changed a little bit, I mean, that fire, the last time I was up there was like the year after the fire. And that was interesting because, I mean, I like to do some hiking when I'm up there. And boy, you could get around everywhere after the fire and see some interesting stuff.
Yeah, now it's, it's growing back a lot. It's starting to look pretty good, but, a lot of those trees that burned that were just kind of the matchstick, nothing left of them, they've all fallen now. So it was pretty tough walking around in there.
Yeah, it was kind of tough walking around because, like I said, it was the year after the fire. And it was almost like those trees were a trap. You'd step on the roots that were burnt, and then their branches burn off to a tip. And you step on that, and they'd come back and smack you. I got hit by those a few times. Those balsams, I think it was. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was kind of dangerous after that. That was interesting to learn.
Yeah. But the moose have done well in there, though.
Have they after that?
Oh, I bet.
Burn, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, because when I used to go up in the early days, we almost always saw moose up on like Insula and up in that Alice area. But then the last years we went up, which is in the probably mid 2000s, we just didn't see the moose anymore.
Sure.
So you're starting to have more sightings.
Yeah. And we're kind of jumping around here probably from what your plan was.
Well, that's normal.
Yep, that's us.
But yeah, so I started up there in 2012. That's when I came on with the DNR, and that was actually my first station. So I've been in the same place the whole time. But when I first started, it was like, all the moose that I was seeing, they were dying. I was either shooting them or they were tipping over and we were going to find them or whatever. A lot of brainworm, a lot of liver flukes and winter ticks and just things. That's when things were really on the downward turn there. And then it seemed like for a number of years, just didn't see very many, weren't getting them hit by cars, weren't getting them hit by trains, stuff like that. And then I would say in the last 5 years now, a few more getting hit by cars, and, the railroad stuff, that's like from the mine.
Right.
But they'll hit them from time to time. And it seems like that's kind of upticked. And I'm not seeing a lot of moose.
Okay.
But I'm seeing more than I did,
And they look a little better
5-10 years ago. Oh yeah. I haven't heard of a brainworm moose in years now.
That's
I think the ones that are out there are, they're healthy. They're doing well.
Yeah. Cause we've been seeing them around here just recently.
Less than a month ago, we saw one over by Coleraine.
Coleraine, and they were, and maybe it was the same moose. I don't know, but it was a big area, and people were making reports of this.
Yeah,
so it's always nice to see them around here because they're pretty rare around here. So
right.
And this was bull moose too.
Yeah,
yep. And then I know there was one that was hit by a vehicle up by in the Togo area just recently. I don't know if you've seen or heard about that one.
I didn't.
And that was a big bull moose. I didn't know bull moose got that.
You know what? I did hear something about that.
Yeah.
Don't come down here very often to the office.
Right.
Last time I was in the office here, I heard somebody talking about that one. And it sounded like that one was maybe well over 50 inches.
Yeah. I mean, I seen the picture and I was, it was hard to believe because, we see the moose, they're the little bullwinkle things.
Right.
And this one was impressive, but unfortunately it was hit by a vehicle.
Sure. Mm-hmm. And I saw one, it was a pair, it was like a spike bull and then a big one just a couple weeks ago in my station there, just in a bog off the road, and that was a big one. I would say 50 plus. I've seen a few like that.
Yeah,
not very often, but man, it's fun to see those big ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's rare around here. Yeah, so since we're on the moose topic, let's stick on that if you don't mind.
Sure.
So you work up by Isabella area.
Yeah.
Now, does that intersect with any of the reservation hunting land or the ceded territory? I think it's called.
Yep.
So do you get to interact with any of those folks?
I do, yeah. So my whole station is within that 1854 ceded territory.
Okay.
So they hunt moose there. I run into, I'd say, several groups every fall.
Yeah, I have actually cousins that are part of that reservation. I don't know if that's what you're supposed to say anymore, but they don't live on it, but they get to hunt there. And I think they go in that area too. And I wasn't sure. So, and I mean, they've kind of told me that the bands have their own COs.
Yes.
And they have to deal with those people if there's can you stop and check them at all? I mean,
well, yeah, for example, like a lot of times I'm out working those forest roads for grouse hunters.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And if I'm seeing, a lot of times these narrow 2-track trails or whatever, if I'm meeting vehicles they're hunting and they got orange and whatever, I'll just stop and, most of the time they'll pull up or whatever and I make my check. And so, I'll run into those guys.
Right.
I'm not really checking their, tribal permits or whatever, but if they say they're moose hunting, I'll still check and make sure they don't have a loaded gun in their vehicle or things like that.
So,
basics,
So you get to deal with some of that.
Yeah. And if I do find issues, a lot of times I'll just, contact the tribal COs or the
have a good relationship with them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what's your opinion on do you think the moose are in a good spot to where we could open that up to a lottery type hunt for the general public?
This is not necessarily a DNR opinion. This is my opinion.
Exactly. Yeah.
I would love to see that. I've been saying that for a few years now because they've been hunting them for, they took a few year break from like 2011 when they, that was the last state season. The tribes took a few year break, but then they started again and they've kind of slowly increased their tags that they give out. And it seems like it's working fine.
Right.
And,
though my cousins, they're successful almost every year.
Sure.
They get a nice, they're bulls they're getting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think a small draw bull only hunt, I think that'd be fantastic if we could get back to that.
Right.
And again, what's going on behind the scenes, I'm not sure.
Right.
But I do think there is some discussion on it, and you read about it now, like in outdoor news and stuff. People are bringing it up
exactly,
and even in my opinion, it's like even if it's 5 tags,
right?
Something where people can at least start applying,
right? Like maybe, with the elk hunt, what was there 2-3 tags this year?
Not very many, but something to get some application money in there to maybe put towards some moose studies or whatever, and give people a chance. I think that'd be a good deal. So we'll see where it goes. But I hope so.
Yeah, it'd be nice. I think it'd be fun because when I was a kid, obviously there was a once in a lifetime moose hunt you could apply for, and I forget what year it stopped, but
I think it was 2011.
I think so too.
So it was, maybe not so long ago as I thought, but it just seems like a long time ago. Yeah. So, all right, we'll get back on track here now that we went off on a moose tangent there. But so where are you originally from here? Are you from Minnesota originally?
From Minnesota, yeah. Okay. East of Rochester, a small town called Iota.
Okay.
I grew up down there, and then I went to college at Vermilion in Ely, Vermilion Community College. They had, they're one of the few places that have like a real targeted law enforcement program towards natural resources. And I knew in high school that I really wanted to be a game warden, a CO.
Yeah.
So that's where I went and spent a couple years there. And then from there, I worked in just regular law enforcement for a few years. My first job was over by Cass Lake on the Leech Lake Indian Reservation.
Okay.
It was a good place to get some experience.
I can only imagine.
Had some wild stuff over there, but as a young guy, that was a good place to start. And back then, law enforcement was a really different climate and a very competitive field.
Okay.
It was really hard to get a job, even in a spot like that. But I got on, basically right out of college and did that for 2.5 years. And then I worked for a sheriff's office for a year as a deputy.
Okay.
And that was during that time. If you guys remember, like 2008 to 12 was a real economic, bad stuff with the state budget wise. So they didn't hire any game wardens during that whole time.
Yeah. I think I remember that.
Yeah.
They
So
put a
from the
freeze
time,
on it or something.
from the time I got done with college till, 2011 would have been when the hiring process started, but 2012 is when I got on. That was the first academy they had done in like 4.5 years.
Oh, wow.
So there was like 30 vacant stations at that time. So I kind of had my choice of where I wanted to go.
That's kind of good. I mean, timing wise, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. So how is it right now? Let's say if somebody wanted to get in the field.
So we're actually pretty full right now. We're probably as close to full staff as we've been since I've been on.
Okay.
We've run just annual academies year after year, but there's people retiring and, we're taking a break for 1 year. So this coming year, there won't be an academy. That'll be the first time in quite a while.
Okay.
But then there'll be some openings again, and we'll start a process that would be like a 2027 academy. But like I said, it's a lot different now than it was when I got hired. There was over 1,000 people that tested, and like my academy, they had 9 hires.
Yeah.
Now, jeepers, we don't get nearly the applicants. So it's a lot better chance. People who are interested in the job field. It's a pretty good.
A few more openings.
Yeah. A lot better hiring prospects now than.
So somebody going through the academy, I mean, do they qualify to work outside of Minnesota if they had to, or do you have to go through a different program?
It's a little bit different. So if you go through college in Minnesota and you get your degree and then you go through your skills program, then you're eligible to take the post test. And that's Peace Officer Standards and Training. It's like our licensing board.
Right.
So once you pass that, then you're licensed or eligible to be licensed in Minnesota. Now there's a lot of states will have like a reciprocity thing where you can probably just take their test. And if you pass it, then you can be a officer there.
Okay. That makes sense.
And then, for the DNR, like we have our own academy then for people that we hire, just because, when you think about it, like when you're in regular law enforcement, you're working off the criminal code, you're working off the traffic code, and the drug code. That's about it.
Right.
Our job, we still kind of touch all those every once in a while. You got to know them. But then, obviously we got the hunting and the fishing stuff, but then you got the recreational vehicle stuff and the forestry stuff and the burning, it's like on and on and on.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff. So we do a 16-week academy for people that we hire just to help get them prepared for all that kind of nuanced stuff that we do.
Yeah. Just to even know. I mean, like today you came in the office with some information about spruce cutting violation, which I had never even heard of. So
I hadn't either.
I would have just assumed somebody's out there making cutaways for their deer stand if I saw something like that.
Right. Yeah. It's always something. And yeah, that spruce top cutting, it's gotten really big, in the northern part of the state. And it's literally people just cutting small spruce trees, like the top, 2 to 5 feet. And then it's decorative material for Christmas, similar to like a balsam bough Christmas wreath.
Right.
But they're putting them in baskets and different arrangements, like at restaurants and hotels and all this stuff. And it's big money because people are, they're coming in and they're stealing it. Not everybody. There's a legitimate market.
Right.
But there's a lot of guys that are, there's a cash market there. And they'll just go wherever they can find them and they'll cut them and sell them. And so that's, it's a good example of one of those things that, a lot of people they've never heard of it. And they think, okay, game warden, well, you're working hunting all the time or fishing.
Yeah.
And that is primarily what we're doing.
Right.
But some of this other stuff, like it's a natural resource and people are making money off of it. And so certainly we're putting, a lot of time and effort into
Well, yeah, it's just something else you got to be aware of that,
Right.
The average person like me wouldn't even think of
Who'd have thought there's a black market for spruce tops?
Right. I would have never thought. So wow. So that there is a lot there for sure. And obviously right now we're all gearing, we're from MDHA, we work there. We're all gearing up for this weekend, which is opening weekend. So I can only imagine you're going to be putting on lots of miles this weekend.
Oh yes. Yeah. So very, very busy. And, the deer season has changed up where I'm at a lot.
Yeah. I suppose.
From the, when I was going to college and at Vermilion in, like 06 to 08. And then when I first started back up there as a CO in 2012, there was a lot of deer. It was good deer hunting.
Yeah.
Things have changed. The populations are really depressed. There's a lot of hunting cabins up there, hunting shacks that, a lot of long tradition. And there's the last couple of years, there's been a lot of places that people just haven't even come, a lot of closed gates at shacks and cabins. You get out in that Isabella country and that is more moose country, but it's some of the most severe winters. And, again, when I first started, there was a lot of camps out there. People would come out there and deer hunt and there weren't a lot of deer, but if a camp, had 7 people, they might get 3 deer.
Yeah.
And they'd usually be nice swamp bucks or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And then after a few years, and I was like, okay, there's a few less camps. And if a camp got 2 deer for 7 guys, then that was still pretty good. And then it was down to less camps. And then if you got 1, you're doing really good. And now there's almost nobody out there. And I can drive miles and miles and miles after a fresh snow and not cut a deer track.
Really?
In certain places, I feel like the deer are starting to come back after a couple mild winters.
Right.
But yes, I mean, even with it as it is, like it's still super busy.
Yeah.
Obviously a big work time for us and putting the miles on the ground and in the truck. So
no doubt. So do you get any time to hunt yourself?
I do, not during firearms deer season.
No, so you just get muzzleloader or archery?
Archery. Typically, I have not hunted the rifle deer season since I've been a CO, which is fine. I like archery a lot better.
Yeah.
This year I'm going to do a special muzzleloader hunt.
Okay.
I've never hunted muzzleloader. This will be the first time for that.
I love it. It's one of my favorite times.
Yeah. But the last couple of years we've gone to buck only up there everywhere, remotely close to where I'm at. And that's, it's tough because especially as a bow hunter or with, I have kids now that are in that youth hunting age.
Okay.
And it's nice to have that option to shoot a doe.
Yeah.
And I love deer hunting, but I like bird hunting even more.
Okay.
And I have a great dog and it's like, they only last so long. So it's like any chance I get, I pick up a shotgun and so to have to try to put the time in to bow hunt a buck is tough.
Up there, it's tough. Yeah.
So this is actually the first year in probably 18 years I didn't even buy an archery license. I'm just going to try the muzzleloader stuff.
Yeah.
So do you get an opportunity to do a lot of bird hunting?
Quite a bit.
Well?
Yeah. As much as I can, obviously the job's busy and then, I got kids that are in activities. And so we're doing that stuff and church stuff and whatnot. But yeah, I do quite a bit of bird hunting, grouse hunting, woodcock, duck.
Okay.
I do take a Manitoba trip each fall for waterfowl.
Nice.
And then I try to get out like a late season South Dakota pheasant trip. So
Okay.
that's,
All right.
that's coming still.
Yeah.
That's something to look forward to. So how's the grouse looking up there?
They've been down this year.
Really?
You know,
Yeah.
the last 3 years have been excellent. Just absolutely excellent. This year, it seemed like there was a decent amount of birds going into the season. And I'm not sure what happened. I'm not sure if it's, you know, probably a combination of things. Things usually are, right?
Right, right.
You know, potentially higher predator numbers. We did have a dry spring, so I thought it was going to be good reproduction, but then we did end up hitting a period where it just, I don't know, probably the same around here where it just rained.
Yes, that's what we heard a lot of. Yeah.
And we had several events, you know, and yeah, they were mid to later summer, but we had several events that were like really heavy, like kind of flash flooding, a lot of washout type stuff. And you just wonder if that ended up taking out some of those birds. I mean, I've seen some young birds this year, but just not the numbers we've had.
Yeah.
You know, in the past few years when I've been out patrolling, like I'll just see a lot of grouse as I'm driving around.
Yeah.
This year, I just have hardly seen any as I'm driving around. If you get out and walk with the dog, you still see some birds. It's okay, you know, but it's not what it's been for sure.
Right. Yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to really get out and do much grouse hunting this year. I usually like to go in early December.
Sure. And I did talk to some guys this past weekend that were from this Grand Rapids area, and they said they saw more birds when they hunted around here than when they came up
north.
towards Ely. And then I've also heard like Northwest Minnesota was pretty good numbers this year, but that's pretty typical too. It's not a across the board thing.
Right.
That there's,
Right.
you know, pockets of good bird numbers.
So what have you been seeing for ducks then?
Actually, it seems like a little bit better this year than I've seen. Last year seemed terrible, but we didn't really have any rice last year.
Okay.
The water was high and there just was no rice. And that was probably, you know, personally the worst duck hunting year I've had in Minnesota. But this year has been actually really good. Not a lot of people out doing it, which I guess as a hunter is kind of nice to not have the competition. But, you know, it seems like where I'm at, you know, the first couple of weeks of the season, there's hunters, you know, you can get out and you can find hunters and there's local birds and it's usually pretty good. Mallards, wood ducks, you know, geese. Seen quite a few geese this year, more than I think I've ever remember seeing as well. But then when you get into the season, I feel like a lot of mornings I'll get up to go work duck hunters and I'll drive and look and don't find any, you know. And then I'll hear like the next day, like, oh yeah, this morning they were banging away out here. And it's like, oh, well, I just, you know, so, but that's the way it goes.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But yeah, there's been some ringnecks coming through, you know, and it just seems like pretty decent. Yeah. Numbers of mallards and geese and even some teal hanging around this year. So
yeah, I got to go duck hunting for the very first time this year. South of here. And we got some teal and some mergansers, I believe.
Mergansers,
And that was the first time I ever got to hunt, and I thought it was a blast. But then I've been hearing some reports around here, and I've been hearing that it's slow this year around here.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know what birds are looking for or anything. But
again, though, it just seems typical. Like, I don't know, you know, or that's kind of a traditional duck hunting mecca with Pelican Lake and stuff like that. And I'll talk to Troy Fondy, the CO over there, and he's like, man, I'm not seeing hunters. I'm not seeing birds. Ely, a lot of times seems like kind of not the duck hunting area. But like I said, I've been seeing birds. I've had some really good hunts and check guys with birds. And so
they're getting
you just never know.
Right.
But again, I think a lot of it has to do with the food, and we had good rice this year.
Yeah. I suppose it varies the rice too, you know, in areas.
Yeah, place to place, depending on when the rains come and how high the water gets. And
So is it frustrating when, you know, you hunt personally? So say you go out one day, it's like not seeing a lot of birds. The next day you're checking hunters and there's birds everywhere. It's like, man.
That happens. That happens. But you know what? So one kind of, I don't know if you'd say perk of the job. In some ways it's a perk. But, you know, we kind of make our own schedules.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And so I can remember a couple years ago, I was out patrolling on a Friday one day, checking grouse hunters. And I came around a corner on a spot and it was like, whoa, the most birds I've ever seen, ducks, you know, on this body of water. And I turned around and headed for home. I grabbed my canoe and my dog and some decoys, and I went back out there and hunted them. So not too many jobs you can just drop that.
Yeah,
drop it and do that.
Well, there you go. That's a good perk to have.
Yeah.
But obviously on the flip side, then the phone's ringing and you're, like the other night I missed my daughter's band concert, and it's like, oh, what a bummer. But something came up, and it's like, that's kind of the idea of that, right? Is that, I don't have anybody else that's working my station. Somebody, if I'm not on and a call comes in, somebody else might come handle a call there.
Yeah.
But we're really kind of the original community policing model, really, because, in my area, I'm the guy, and everybody in the community knows that, and they get to know you, and they have your phone number. And so I get calls, and if I'm not like gone or, doing something really important, I'll pick up the phone. And if it's something I can go deal with, I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
Right.
So
that's awesome. So, getting back to the deer season, and, you said that the numbers are down, and I think that's pretty well known around here too.
Yeah.
Because north here is the same thing,
Yes.
Even where I'm from, there used to be deer camps everywhere. And, you go up there now and Dad is saying, there's nobody around, there's nobody out there, which just blows my mind. And we know that it's caused by a multitude of issues. And one we hear the most is the wolves.
Sure.
So, are you seeing a lot more wolves in the last 10 years than there ever has been? Or what is your take on that?
Yeah, there's definitely a healthy population.
Yeah.
I would say that's definitely one of the main factors, I think.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, as the deer populations have gone down. I have seen a little bit of a downtick in wolves, but what I see a lot more of now is like the singles and pairs, the small groups.
Yeah.
Which really makes sense, because if they don't have as much big game to hunt, it's not beneficial for them to be in those bigger groups.
Makes sense.
And I see quite a few wolves. I obviously deal with I don't have a lot of livestock in my area, but I get a lot of dog attacks, wolves attacking dogs in people's yards and stuff like that, which is, obviously a bummer. And sometimes, so there's actually like a couple different wolf zones in Northeast Minnesota. So zone 1 is kind of, boundary waters over towards the Gunflint Trail, and the feds, the U.S. Department of Ag, they have federal trappers that will come in on some of these livestock depredations or pet depredations or things like that. But in that zone 1, they don't do anything unless it's like directly human threat type thing.
Okay.
Outside of that, if somebody's dog's getting eaten, cattle, whatever, they'll come in and they'll do some trapping, some control stuff. But yeah, I certainly do think it's been a big factor. We've had some, not the last 2, but some really strong winters.
Yeah.
I think back to when I first started, that 12, 13, 14. Those were crazy with snow and cold, and they went really, really long. Like I remember, it would have been 2014. I couldn't even get on the water for fishing opener. There was still ice, So that's a long time. And I know they were doing some, deer collaring and wolf collaring studies and things like that. And they were doing some deer collaring, and a lot of those deer that got collared that spring just died because it got so long. So, that stuff obviously plays into it. But 2012 to 2014, we had the wolf season. We had the wolf hunt and trap. And that was when I, first started. And I felt like those went well. We didn't kill a ton of them. I think they had a cap at like 400. And I don't, do you guys pay attention to this Voyager wolf project?
Yeah, we actually know Tom.
Yeah, we've had Tom on here a few times.
Yeah. And, I've done some reading. Obviously they get articles in Outdoor News and Meat Eater podcasts and whatever. But I read one from those guys not too terribly long ago, and I'm like, man, that's good stuff. Like it's insightful. I think one of the things in that particular article, they were trying to clear up that they're not really, pro or anti or whatever. They're just doing the research.
Pretty neutral.
Right.
But I liked that, But one thing I do still wonder is, again, some of these, the pack stuff is very well known. Wolves are pack animals and they've got their pack territories. And like now up there, they're increasing their size because, there's less food or whatever. But I still wonder if some of these singles and pairs that are just kind of like on the landscape, are they getting missed or not counted or whatever?
Right.
And they're still having impact. Obviously they're eating,
absolutely. They're hungry.
Yeah. Yeah. But I hear a lot of complaints, one kind of interesting story from a couple of years ago, there was a guy hunting right outside of Babbitt, and that area holds deer. They've actually outlawed feeding deer in the city of Babbitt now by ordinance.
Oh, okay.
But, for many years, there's a lot of feeding going on in town. So deer were coming in and out of town, and there's some nice habitat close by there. And obviously that area gets hunted hard. And, but a guy was sitting in his in his blind on opening day, and he shot a buck, and he's like, oh, I'm going to have a cup of coffee and then I'll go get it. And all of a sudden these wolves just like ran right past his blind, right to his buck.
Yeah.
And started chomping
like
on
it was a dinner bell.
Yeah,
Yep.
Exactly. And he got out and, pushed them off, but they stayed close by, and he called somebody, like, I think he called his wife, and he's like, hey, come on, we got to get this deer taken care of and out of here. And then another shot rang out down the power line, and those wolves took off, just like you said, just like a dinner bell. So, I mean, that's pretty brazen, like, and that was one thing I think from the seasons in 12 to 14 was, and again, referencing this article by these guys with the Voyageur Wolf Project, is 400 is not really a population impact.
Right.
But I do think it helped keep them a little bit more wild. Kept that fear of humans in them a little bit more. I noticed that. It seemed like we weren't having the dogs getting attacked in people's yards. And people weren't walking up to them or. Right.
Well, I think they forget that they need to be leery, of us in our areas. And I think with the hunting season like that you can push back a little bit, especially in those higher population areas. You're going to push back, and they're going to.
There's going to be more hunters there,
right?
And trappers.
So, and I think that's a big part of why we should have a wolf management season. Is just a little bit of pushback in those areas where they are causing issues.
Yeah, and it does seem like when you take some animals out of a population, that overall they're healthier.
Right.
I've noticed that too. Like after they quit having that season, and it's, I feel like where I'm at up there by Ely, for most, up until just recently, there was always kind of that enough of a surplus of deer that regardless of, hunting seasons and regardless of what was taken by wolves, they were always able to, keep the population, okay, huntable, decent. And now I feel like we've dropped below that, where it's, at least in some areas, it's going to be really hard to get it back. But with, when the populations were higher, like there was some of those wolf packs were really big. I would see it, out on my patrols when we'd get that snow, and you get a fresh snow, and so you got the tracks, and it's not, it can be hard to count exactly how many are there, but it's like, okay, that's a lot, 10 to 15 in that pack or whatever. That's a lot of eating. And now a lot of those packs are really small, 3 or 4. But again, I feel like it's because we don't have that excess anymore. And I think people forget that too, is once those deer numbers do go down, the wolf numbers kind of follow. And I was reading an article, I don't know if it was in Outdoor News, it was just the other day, they said that the wolves in the Voyageurs area is taking a pretty hard hit these last winters, because they were easier, which makes it harder for them. Right.
How about the bear population up where you're at? I'm sure that
seems really good and really healthy. So I'm actually on the DNR Bear Committee. Okay. So we have, it's mostly, wildlife managers. And then, in Grand Rapids here, we have Andy Try. He's like the head bear biologist for the whole DNR. And then he's got another person, Hannah Leeper, that works with him. So there's a couple people just totally devoted to black bears, and they do some collaring and different things. But then there's a few enforcement reps too. And we meet annually to look at the harvest numbers and per bear permit area, and, look at the laws to see if there's anything that should be changed or cleaned up. But it's primarily like season setting for the following year on quota numbers and stuff like that. And bears are one of those that are super hard to get like a good, accurate population. Everything's in trends, you know? And obviously it's super based on food, you know, the food availability. If you get a bad food year, the hunt goes really well.
It's really easy then.
And if you have the better food years, then it's a little bit more difficult. But yeah, I am a bear hunter. I love hunting bears. But yeah, I would say we're in a really good spot. You know, with bear populations. Just talking to the guides and other hunters and what I've seen on our baits and even, you know, bears are one of those animals you don't see a lot of just as you're out and about. They're pretty reclusive and back in the woods.
Right.
But I mean, the last few years, like I've seen more bears out and about on my patrols and stuff like that. So, but with, you know, the quota numbers we've kept them down a bit because they were concerned, especially up in the Northeast. You know, it's not quite as productive country, you know, not quite as good of food and everything. And they think, you know, they maybe start reproducing just a little bit later in life in the Northeast part of the state than they do maybe even around here. So they want to protect that, which makes sense. But it does make a good quality of hunt when you don't have a ton of it. You know, there's that fine balance of how long's too long to wait to get a tag.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is a good quality of hunt when you have less people in the woods, when you can draw a tag where don't have a lot of competition and people having baits right next to each other and stuff like that.
Right.
So,
Yeah, because what, you waited 5 years?
5 years. I did get my permit this year. I didn't get a bear because I suck at bear hunting, but it's just so busy that time of year. It's
it's hard. You have to stick with it.
You do. And I'd start solid, then I just get busy. So I did not get a bear this year, and it did take me 5 years to get a tag, where I used to take 3, but I just didn't have where I was hunting in just my little area. I usually have a lot of bear, but this year I just couldn't get them to come in. And a little bit I tried. So
well, and sometimes too, you know, they'll kind of migrate around. They'll travel around. They don't stick as close as maybe, you know, even deer or something like that. And if there's better food somewhere else, they might just be gone for a little bit and come back. Or if you don't stick with the baiting, that can be hard to, you know.
That was my downfall this year. Just we had camping trips, and it never fails. Just camping trip always like the next weekend after I start baiting, and it's
hard to keep it going. But
it is.
Yeah, my oldest daughter, she just turned 14, but she drew a tag. She actually got a surplus last year. This was her first time drawing, but she was able to harvest one, so that was cool. Fun. And we had bears on all our baits. In fact, it was probably the quickest that I've ever had bears, you know, find baits.
Really?
Like we set 3 baits out, and I didn't even really finish them. You know, we got bait in the woods and signs up and got them registered, but I still had stuff I wanted to put out or whatever. But by that next day, when we went and checked them, there were 2 out of the 3 were already hit.
Wow.
So, it was good for us. And, you know, there's a couple guides up there that I know well, and they're pretty much 100%. I mean, if people didn't harvest bears, it was because they chose not to, or they missed or something like that. Yeah. Like he said, they had Bissonnette's backcountry guided hunts out of Babbitt. He said they had baits. They had bears coming in. They never even used them. Yeah. And they don't put 3 baits out per hunter like they're allowed to. They do less than that because they're like, all we're doing is wasting bait.
Right.
Yeah. But it seemed like a good season.
Yeah. I mean,
the few we've talked to.
Yeah. We know a couple of guides, and they did really well.
Yeah.
Didn't seem to have any issues whatsoever. I mean, I think I didn't see as many berries this year, but I mean, around here there was acorns and hazelnuts. So the food wasn't great, but it was, I think, better than, it was worse than it was before.
Well, and last year was such a warm opening season, where this year was a little cool. I mean, it's still warm, but it wasn't as warm as
by day 3. It was pretty cold. We had a cold week stretch there, and then it warmed up again. Yeah, and that was interesting too, because you know, most of the harvest usually happens like the first week,
right?
And then there's some the second, a little bit the third, and then it just really peters out. You know, once grouse season starts and more people are in the woods and stuff. But this year, I think because it stayed warm almost right to the it really did to the end of the season. Like people were still happy to go sit out in the woods, and I think a lot of the bears stayed up because, you know, it was warm. So we had way more later, second half of the season harvest this year than we probably ever have.
Yeah,
way more than typical.
Yeah, you'd probably see that data too. I mean, being on the committee.
Yep. Yeah, that's probably not all out in the public yet, but that's what happened this year. Yeah, way more bears got shot.
The weather was conducive to it, although there was some more mosquitoes still out. I mean, when I was youth hunting with my son, we were swatting mosquitoes.
Yeah, crazy. Well, I'll give you one quick story about the bear hunt. So we had one bait that we had a really nice bear coming in. And it's like, that's, my wife actually sat with my daughter on opener so I could work. But that bear had come in like, 8 or 9 nights in afternoons in a row and didn't show up. And that actually happened to a lot of people on opener. Don't really know what the reason was, but it wasn't just them. But we had another one that had a decent bear coming in real consistently as well. And I thought we are never going to use this bait because the mosquitoes, every time you walk in there, were horrendous. You couldn't even bait it. I had to wear a bug coat and bug spray. It was horrible. I'm like, I don't even know why I'm baiting this spot. But then that cold snap hit on the third day, and that's where we ended up. We sat on that one, and she shot a bear off that one. So it turned out great. But it was cold enough that the mosquitoes
were at bay.
Yeah. But yeah, we did it. We had a lot of mosquitoes late into the fall.
I would take my son out when we were baiting, and it was like he hated it because the mosquitoes were so bad.
Yeah. Tough to think about sitting in that.
It is. It's like you don't even want to go out there. I mean, you run out there and do what you got to do real quick and get out of there, and you're like, man, how am I going to sit?
Right.
Thermocell, but I didn't even get a good chance to do that. So,
how about the youth season? Did your kids hunt for the youth season for deer? Or?
We didn't participate this year, but saw pretty low participation up by me this year.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, I think a lot of that just has to do with that being buck only. That's tough.
I suppose up in your area.
That's tough to, unless you got a really good spot, tough to bring kids out there to watch does, But I know of a few that, a few locals that were able to, their kids able to get some deer, but I did see, I just read the Outdoor News last night, this last edition, and I did see that the Northeast was up for youth hunting this year, but compared to what, I don't know, last year was probably really, really bad.
Pretty bad,
And so this year was, a few more people killing them. But
we saw a lot of success photos sent to us from kids this year compared to last year.
Yeah, overall, it seemed pretty good. And I know in this area, especially with our Itasca chapter, they had a lot of first-year hunters, very successful. So
nice.
So that seemed pretty good.
Yeah. It's always good to see.
Right.
I love it to get the kids out there. And my son was not successful, so
mine neither.
We're going to continue hunting this weekend.
Yeah,
so hopefully we can get him south out. And where we hunt here is in this area, and is in city limits too, so we got the disease management thing. So it's a little easier because we don't have to be as picky. So
nice.
So I'm hoping this weekend we can get his tag filled. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, because that was, I know, one question we had. Somebody had asked us last week, and maybe came in on an email or a phone call, and they said, okay, so if my son or daughter, if my youth didn't harvest a deer during youth season, that youth tag is still valid for regular firearms, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, I was a little confused about that one myself.
So exactly. I'll just reiterate what you just said, that if a youth does not use their tag, they're not successful during youth season, it is still good during the firearm season.
Season. Okay.
Right.
Yep. Same tag.
Right. And they have to follow the rules in the area they're in then.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Then it refers back to whatever zone that is.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So lottery zones, the youth can still take a doe without a permit, but buck only is buck only.
Okay. Yeah. And that does make it tough. I mean, because up where I used to hunt as a kid, I can't imagine. I don't know if I'd get too many years out of my son, sitting up there now and not seeing anything.
Yeah, it is tough. Like I said, my oldest, I mean, her 10 and 11-year-old year, we were able to go just a little ways south, and we got permission on a property, and she was able to shoot does during the youth season both those years. But then last year, when everything went to buck only, I said, well, if you get a bear, maybe we'll set the deer season out, and that's what we've ended up doing the last 2 years, which is unfortunate. Now my next, I got 3 girls, but they're all old enough to participate in the hunt now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I'd sure like to, and yeah, not that there's anything wrong with teaching them a little bit of patience, but it is harder with kids, especially if all you're going to see is does, to be able to say, I can't take one, even though, but
yeah, it's
the way it is.
I mean, there's the kids got so much going on these days, and
and that's part
so
of it
many
too.
things taking their attention.
Yes.
It's like, it's tough to get them out there and sit for a season and not see or have any success. So I can totally understand where we go further south. So our kids have pretty good opportunities and even where we hunt. So, but if I was hunting up in, the Togo area, that'd be tough.
Yeah.
I can imagine, because it is buck only up there. So,
I'm sure that's probably a lot of questions you get as well. Just like, just about deer numbers and what do you have input into it and stuff like that,
Yeah. I mean, the local wildlife manager out of Tower, they get pretty much free rein for season setting and permit designations and stuff. And like there, it's Jessica Holmes. She's the wildlife manager out of Tower up in my area. And she'll solicit feedback, she'll ask us what we're seeing and things like that. But I mean, I don't get a lot of input, you can give your 2 cents or whatever and kind of see, let them know what you're seeing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're out there probably more than anybody, I would imagine. And I mean, you're out there every day. So you probably are getting a reference anyway.
Yes.
Of what's going down.
Correct. Mm-hmm. And one thing, you probably see it around here too. I wouldn't think it's a unique thing to Northeast Minnesota, but it seems like every town or every little bit more populated area, that's where the deer populations are.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And again, a lot of it I think has to do with feeding, but there's also gardens and, apple trees and all these attractants. And then I think they also feel a little bit safer from the wolves.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
But like in Ely right now, jeepers, there's all kinds of deer. There's lots of deer in town. You get out of town, very far out of town, not so much. And there's literally pockets where it's like, man, there's just nothing.
Yeah.
But then you get into some of these other areas. Let's just use Eagles Nest Township, for example, by Bearhead Lake State Park. Mm-hmm. That's another area. It's a little bit more populated, lots of houses, lots of cabins, probably again, some people feeding, and you have deer there,
Right.
But that makes it tough for hunting as well, because these deer are in places that really aren't accessible.
Right.
And it just doesn't seem real natural. Another thing that I notice up where I'm at that, I'm a little concerned about is ratios. We have so many does compared to bucks.
Really? Okay.
And it's just really rare to see bucks, even when you're driving at night in the ditches, now they're out, right? Stuff's starting to move. And it's like, you see does, but you see so few bucks. And like a couple of years ago, would have been in December after we, got good ice and some snow, and I was do a lot of patrolling on Snowmobile.
Right.
And like Birch Lake, that's my biggest lake. It's a reservoir, but it's 18 miles long.
Yep.
And there's Snowmobile trail that, staked down the center of it. But I was riding Snowmobile down there one day, and it's like, it's not uncommon for me to see a wolf kill a deer out there, carcass, and they clean them up pretty quick. But I saw something sticking up. I'm like, what is that? And I went over and with the Snowmobile, and it's like nice 10-point rack, like a really, really nice deer. And it's like, wow, that's what the wolves are taking. But I suppose they get so run ragged during the rut and everything. They get worn down, and then they're vulnerable. Yeah. But I get a little bit concerned. I really do think in places that there are some does that are not getting bred just because there's not many bucks.
Not many bucks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that makes it tough for them to rebound,
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So I don't know what the answer is, but it's definitely something I've noticed,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And with that, I don't think there's a lot of people anymore, or everybody wants a buck, obviously.
Right.
I think in certain areas as well, there's not enough people that are harvesting does when they very well could be.
Sure.
So obviously that changes some numbers, for the wildlife managers and everything like that too. So
Yeah, they don't harvest. I'm from up in that area, and it's always. I don't remember a time it was anything other than lottery or buck only, really. I mean, there might have been a few years where it was hunter's choice or something, but
yeah, since I've been on, we had 1 year, I think it was maybe like 2015 that we had a hunter's choice. But other than that, it's always been like a low number of permits for lottery or this buck only. Yeah.
And like you said, we just don't have the archery hunters up there.
Right.
I mean, I did when I was younger, but it was tough,
Yeah.
So I can see where it'd be a difficult thing. But yeah, I wonder that too, because whenever I go back up north to visit Dad too, it's just does everywhere, and that's all he sees too. And he's like, "Well, don't even know if I'm going to hunt this year because I can't. All I'm seeing is does on camera, so I can't shoot anything." So
yeah, and everybody wants venison, which it makes sense, So you can't blame anybody for shooting a legal deer,
right?
But yeah, you crack a deer, and it's like, well, if there's still does to be bred, there's one less buck to breed those does.
Right. Yeah, and I totally get that because. Yeah, I understand why they try to protect those does because they can repopulate, but you need the other side too. So that's a good question. We'll have to get one of those scientists on here.
One of the wildlife managers, and to talk about how their ratios with everything and what do they look for, to decide.
Is that a legit issue?
Right.
I'm sure they must talk about that stuff. You said her name was Jessica Holmes.
Yeah, that's who I deal with.
Okay.
Yep.
We're gonna have to reach out to her.
Right. Exactly.
Have her explain this stuff to us.
She'd be a good one to talk to. Yeah, and she's a hunter and stuff herself, and I'm sure she would have some good insight on some of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all those scientists are. I mean, Tom Gable from the Voyagers Wolf Project, he's a hunter.
Yeah,
he does pretty good. Did you follow him online at all? I mean, do you see that video they posted of all the bucks they get on cameras? There's some nice bucks up there.
Yeah, there is.
I bet.
In that area.
I see some of their stuff from time to time.
He did this montage of all the bucks they've had on camera. And oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
It's like, I want to talk to Tom and be like, okay.
Yeah.
I know you got GPS data on some of these guys.
I need to spend a day up there with him and just travel around.
Right.
And Onyx,
Yeah. So there's a few bucks up in at least his area, and I don't know, those were from years or this year. I know he said they were all from this year.
They're all from this year.
So that's impressive. But yeah, you don't see them up there. That's for sure.
Yeah, a lot of country, and most people like to hunt close to the road.
Right. And it's a little bit more rugged up there. So it makes it a little more difficult. So I don't know, maybe that'll be the new place to go here in a few years. That'd be all right. I'm sure it would help the economies up there. Like it used to.
Yeah, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So I know obviously we've talked about, the deer, the animals. You do a lot of, I suppose, ATV stuff too and snowmobiling stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got all kinds of things. And what you said you're not seeing too many deer camps anymore, but you still must have some up there.
Yeah.
Because I know right now we're talking a lot about deer camps at MDHA. It's just something, that has always been a part of the tradition. And so, I mean, there's still some people out there doing that still.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And there's areas that are basically nothing but deer shacks and camps, down these roads. And there's, some, like I said, some are not being visited like they used to, but most of them still are. And some people coming and doing the wall tent thing and stuff like that.
Really? So you're still seeing some of that?
But that was more what I was seeing like out in that Isabella country when I first started. And now it just not many people out there, and I don't blame them. In fact, I got one that really sticks with me. This was probably 4 or 5 years ago. It was about the end of the deer season, and I was driving down the Tomahawk Road out towards Lake Isabella, and Forest Center was a logging community back like in the 50s. There's a sign up at that Lake Isabella Boundary Waters entry point parking lot, kind of with the history of Forest Center. And I ran into this old guy coming down the road. He was probably in his 70s, and I got out and talked to him, and he just seemed so forlorn. And he told me that he had grown up in Forest Center, so he'd been coming out there and hunting all his life. And he said, "I'm not coming back." And it was just like, wow. But it was because the deer were just gone out there.
Yep.
So, and again, that area, that country, it's almost all public land, just vast tracts of public land and forest roads. And it's not really deer country, but they cut out there and stuff. And so there always was some But yeah, now it's people aren't showing up to deer hunt that, almost ever, and one thing I see a little bit more of now, I never saw grouse hunters during deer season, but now I will. I'll see some people out, especially if the weather's decent. They'll go out because they're like, I got a better chance.
A little bit more productive. I get it.
And when there was people deer hunting out there, I think people just kind of were courteous and just stayed out of there.
Right.
I mean, obviously it's public land. They had the right to go grouse hunting, but they just didn't.
Right.
Because there's people deer hunting out there. And now I think, slowly people have realized like, oh, there's not really people deer hunting out here. So we might as well go grouse hunting.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
But,
and like you said, it was a little bit more productive. So
yeah. And like I said, I don't think that's ever been like great deer country, but what it is right now is it is sort of sad, just barren,
Yeah, barely deer country. Yeah. Which, leads us to, maybe we should have a limited wolf season, a limited moose season. Might bring some hunters back in the woods.
Yeah. I mean, and it's interesting. Like where I'm at, it's obviously a destination. People come up grouse hunting, destination for the boundary waters and fishing and camping and bear hunting and snowmobiling. You brought up the ATV stuff. That has really exploded.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up, because
in the last 5 or so years, tons of trails have been built and have linked stuff. And the ATV and side-by-side activity is crazy. And it's very good for the economy. It can be a little bit frustrating for hunters sometimes, you get grouse hunters. It's like, man, I can't get away from these side-by-sides, so there is some of that, but so there's still a lot going on. Certainly I think there's an opportunity potentially, down the road. Hopefully we maybe have some of these other things you mentioned, but obviously it's, some of that, you hope that everything is managed scientifically, biologically.
Right.
Yep.
And not emotionally.
It's not a secret that some of this stuff is fairly emotional and political.
Yes, absolutely.
But
we see it all the time with the wolves. So,
that's the question we get all the time. When can we hunt wolves? When can we do this? What are you guys doing for wolf season? It's like, man,
right.
It's kind of out of our hands. I'm sure you get the same questions.
Correct. Yeah.
And at least, we can advocate for it at the Capitol, which we do, and push every year. It's just like, well, here's the right way to do it. And, we always hear the wrong way to do it. I mean, even today, we were on social media is the worst,
Yeah, we had to hide quite a few posts.
Yeah, I posted from the Wolf Report page today of a report up in Ely of a wolf sighting. And, right away we get your standard comments, which I know you've heard them all. The smoke a pack a day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Although they forget that last part on the shoot shovel. They should just change it now to shoot shovel on social media, because that's all they ever do. It's like, really?
Right. I would think most people that are sharing the shoot shovel and shut up are not actually doing it. Because, like you said,
they forgot the last part there. Yeah. They just think it sounds cool, I think. So we hear that. I'm sure you must get
the DNR has entered the chat.
I'm sure there are some people that probably are taking care of some of these, but
there are.
I'm sure it's not to the level that some people are trying to say that it is.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely not.
The ones that think they're tough online, they'll write it, but they would never do it.
Well, no,
but
as they should.
They're going to be a keyboard warrior like usual.
Right. So, but I'm sure you run into plenty of complaints. Well, if the wolves are up there eating at pets too, I can totally understand why that would make somebody extremely angry.
Yeah.
I'd be pretty upset if it was my pet.
Right. Exactly. Anybody can put themselves in that shoes and it would be upsetting.
Yeah. I totally understand it, especially when there's really nothing they can do. I mean, other than call you.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So I completely understand that. But you brought up I brought up the ATVs. So, I mean, what are you seeing with that? I mean, what is the biggest violation when it comes to the side-by-sides and ATVs? Is it just stupidity or...
I mean, certainly like the accidents have gone up just because of the usage.
I suppose.
So that, that's still the speed, the typical speed and drinking thing. I mean, that's kind of standard forever with snowmobiles and now ATVs. But I think just on a day-to-day basis, probably what I see the most for violations is like youths without helmets.
Okay.
That's a big one. That's a kind of a focus statewide because it's obviously a safety issue.
Mm-hmm.
And it does seem like a lot of these accidents where people are getting hurt and, kids dying and things like that. It is a lot of times it's youth operation and
Really?
may not have helmets on and things like that. So
What is the law with the youth helmets?
So everybody under 18 has to wear a helmet, driver or passenger. It doesn't matter if it's a class 2, the side-by-side with the cab. Occasionally we'll see like these little kids strapped in car seats. And that's like, I understand why people are doing that, but legally they have to wear a helmet. And these machines are not crash protection,
No.
They're, maybe obviously better than if you're just riding on like a straddle seat, but
Right.
so that's a little bit tougher one because it's like, I understand why you want to bring your baby with on a side-by-side ride, but until they can kind of hold their head up,
Probably not a good idea.
it's not a good idea.
Right.
No.
Right.
And again, we do take the youth stuff pretty seriously because it's safety stuff.
Well, you could save their lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
And kind of seems to go in waves, but just parents allowing their younger kids to go out and use these and ride them on the roads to their buddies. And, I've heard the excuse so many times like, oh, well, at least they're not home playing video games or doing drugs. And it's like, yeah, I agree with that. But at the same time, that doesn't give you the right to just let them go break the law.
You're right.
Yep.
So that's kind of one that, it's sort of the never ending battle up there too.
I suppose, because it has become so popular.
It has. It has. But for the most part, I'd say that's a pretty good, pretty solid group, and I'm not seeing many, like unregistered machines and stuff.
Well, if you can afford a side-by-side these days, you can definitely afford the registration.
Right.
Those things are crazy expensive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have an unregistered four-wheeler in my house, but it doesn't go anywhere other than my yard.
Yeah, mine's so old I can't take it anywhere. So it's not that reliable.
Tires aren't good. It doesn't go on any trails. It stays in my yard. I know when my son was like, hey, can I ride down to so-and-so's? I go, no. Well, why not? I go, well, for one, it's not registered. For two, you're not going on the highway. For three, you don't have a helmet. So I was like, nope.
See, that's good
We'll
parenting.
drive you down.
Right,
Yeah.
No doubt. So I know you said you were a bear hunter. Is that your favorite one to eat?
It's right up there.
Really?
I really like.
Really?
We really like eating bear. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I kind of do it all, and so we eat a lot of wild game. But I'd say bear's right up there. We really like eating fish. My wife likes the white meat, so grouse and pheasant is kind of her favorite. But yeah, we eat that just straight bear burger. It's delicious.
Yeah.
Or roast, in a crock pot or whatever.
I've had a lot of bear burger. I don't know if I've ever had a bear roast.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And I feel like every time I talk to somebody that's like, no, I don't like bear meat, it's probably because they had a bad experience with how it was processed.
Yeah, and you hear that over and over. It's generally the case. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you don't get at those things right away, it can be, the fat starts soaking back in. And
in that time of year, it's still warm, so you got to take care of them quickly.
Yeah.
Got to have a plan for after the hunt. People forget about that sometimes.
Correct.
Especially when this weather's staying warmer.
Yeah.
Although I think it's looking like it's going to be a cooler weekend this weekend. I think there is a chance of snow.
End of the week looks quite cold, and then maybe a slight warm up, maybe a little bit above average. But I mean, I feel like I was just thinking about this driving down here today that, most that week leading up to deer season when I'm out looking around in the woods and stuff, it seems like a lot of the time we end up getting some snow that sticks. This year doesn't really look like that's going to be the case. But I can also think of a couple openers where it's been like 70. So
right.
I mean,
just only a few years ago it was.
I was like in my t-shirt in the stand. Yeah, no, this one's looking. I think it's going to be good. I've been seeing lots of buck activity this past week. So I'm hoping we're not missing the best time. Come fire
this week,
right? Because I just haven't had a chance to get out with the bow, so I'm really hoping at least the kids, if not me or you, the kids can get out there and have some fun.
No, you're right. This week I've definitely seen the activity upticking.
Yeah, me too.
And even a few bucks.
Yep. Oh yeah, I've been seeing probably more bucks this week than I have does even. So.
Sure.
So it's looking good. I'm just hoping it holds out, and I think with that cold weather coming in on Saturday, it might be just. we might have a great opener.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think so.
That's my guess. Not that I'm anybody.
Probably when all the ducks are pushing through. Too.
Probably.
Right,
It's all going to
exactly.
happen at once. It's
the
all
way
going to
it
happen
goes.
at once. Yeah.
Yeah. So what season do you probably, I don't know, dread, but not look forward to the most? Is it deer hunting or
Is it fishing opener?
Is it fishing opener, people in the woods?
Gosh, that's a tough one
I
because
bet.
like I like my job.
Well, yeah.
Right.
I really do. Like I kind of sense the anticipation building up to deer season or
Yeah.
fishing opener or whatever. I mean, now that I've done a pretty large number of them, it's there's parts of it that it's like, okay, yeah, deer season can get to be a bit of a drag, especially with a 16-day deer season. And now that things have slowed down a little bit deer wise, like I feel like that one, just because, I'm out there working.
Yep.
And so that one does get a little bit long and draggy, but one thing I love about this job is the variety, you know?
Yeah.
And it's, one season to the next, and I enjoy all of it. And, being able to get on the snowmobile and being able to get in the boat and in the canoe and all that stuff. And so, but you do by the end of each season, it's kind of like, all right, I'm ready for the next one.
You get sick of asking those
exactly,
same questions over and over again. I suppose I want to ask them new questions.
You get some of that, but and with deer season, like probably the first, up until just the last few years, I've dealt with a ton of like hunting over bait. That'd be like my number one violation that I've encountered up there during deer season. And I feel like, a lot of the spots that maybe were good candidates to look at, I've looked at them and caught a lot of the people doing it. Obviously, there's still some of it going on. I'm not dumb to think that I've caught everybody or whatever, but that was always kind of exciting, like kind of disappointing that people are doing that, but kind of exciting to go out and find those. And like I can think of a couple years, I had one in particular, kind of in that Embarrass area where I had 15 baited stands on 10 different properties within 3 miles of each other, all lined up that I had found prior to opener. That I was like, okay, so opening morning, it's like bang, 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 one to the next, to the next, to the next. Season guns, writing tickets. That year I seized just an absolute monster buck that had gotten shot over bait. It was like the last one that I had to go to, and I just stopped for a minute to like drink some water or something, and I heard a shot, and I'm like, that's where that came from.
Yep.
And I waited 15 minutes, and I went there and walked in, and these two guys are all just on cloud nine, and we're shooting this huge buck, and it was literally dead right next to the bait.
Oh gosh.
And I'm like, oh, great buck. What's that? That's a sweet apple salt block. It's like, well, guys, and then it sinks in, and it's like go from the highest of the highs to the lowest of the lows, but, I mean, that kind of stuff though, it just really goes back to the firearm safety, right? Like of just these ethics. Why do we have hunting laws? Safety, conservation, fair chase, and that fair chase aspect of things like baiting, and statewide, on a statewide level, that's been the number one deer hunting violation for a number of years, and it's well publicized. If you look at a deer regulations, that deer baiting regulation page is a different color. It's set aside. It's like, it's super specific, all these products you can buy in the store, a lot of them have additional stuff in them other than salt and mineral, and you have to look at it, and it's like, we cannot do anything else to get the word out. And yet annually, every year, people are still doing it, and sometimes really legitimately, unknowingly putting out these products.
I suppose.
But it's because
it's a salt block, but
and that's what it says on it. It says mineral block or salt block. Yeah. But there's corn, there's sugar, there's other things added to it, and it's like, there's nothing else we can do. We can't make you read the regulations, But it's like, and the punishment is fairly stiff. Like, we take their guns and they have to sit out a year of deer hunting, and but yet it continues to be
every year.
Every year.
Yeah, around here we can't even use
We can't even use
minerals.
scents because of the CWD.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, because you probably don't deal with that up there yet.
We haven't, you know. I keep wondering as it kind of spreads, like, are we going to hit that point where they just say, no more feeding, no more attractants, period, statewide? Obviously, that hasn't happened.
We've been that for years here now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can't put anything out.
But yeah, I guess, you know, that's some of the most time consuming work that on deer season, and also kind of some of the most interesting, and I think some of the most impactful, because again, those people that are doing that, especially a corn pile or an apple pile, it's like, that's really blatant.
Yeah.
You know?
That's brazen, right?
And
there.
it is screwing everybody else around you.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, and like you said, there's been the law for years.
Yeah.
I mean, you've never been able to do that in Minnesota.
Well, you used to be
You
able
know.
to bait, but I mean, we're talking 80s or something like that, you know.
Sure.
Maybe
Yeah, and
before that, but
maybe one of the most interesting ones I had a guy, this is quite a few years ago now, but I found this bait and I actually caught him archery hunting on it, I think on Halloween. And, you know, he had a nice Matthews bow or whatever, seized his bow and wrote him his ticket and explained the whole thing about, you know, that it has to all be cleaned up and be gone for 10 days before you can hunt it. And, you know, you can either choose to pay the ticket and then your revocation goes into play and you sit the rifle season out, or you really want to, you know, until they pay their ticket or are found guilty in court, the revocation doesn't kick in. So it's like, if you want to hunt the rifle season, theoretically you can, but just not here.
Right.
You know, not until that time window's up. And then I ended up catching them like the Monday after opener, hunting in the same stand, rifle hunting.
Yeah.
oh gosh.
So yeah, some people aren't real,
Not real bright.
not real bright, but you know, on that one, it's like, he didn't hunt it on opening weekend. He just didn't think I'd be out looking on a Monday or something.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always interesting.
Right.
There's
Well,
always-
sometimes you just can't fix stupid, you know?
Well, yeah. You know, desperate. Evidently, he must have had something out there he really wanted to get. Holy diver. It's like, come on, man. You've been busted there once already. You get there just a few days later. What do you do?
Oh.
So I know we could, we're over an hour now. We can let you go. But I know that there's a story, at least I'm fairly certain, with the moose.
Yeah.
Can we tell the moose story? I mean, because you just dropped the antlers off back at the office today. And I know there's a story that goes with that.
Absolutely.
Can you share that one?
Yeah, you bet. So I think this would have been 3 deer seasons ago now. I got a call. It was early in the morning, stating that a hunter had shot a moose in Isabella. And so I was getting ready to go to work anyway. I head down there and I meet with this guy. And so the story was he had a deer stand out in a clear cut, and he was walking out, and it was kind of right at first legal shooting hours, but it was still dark out, you know, and it was a snowy day. It was actually coming down really heavily. And he gets out almost to his stand and he sees some movement out in this clear cut. And he pulled his gun up and he saw a tine through the scope. You know, the scope's all wet and foggy, and I mean, just terrible conditions for trying to make out what's what. But he sees a tine and he drops the gun down to where he believes the shoulder should be and squeezes around. And right away he realized what he did. And thankfully he did the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he went out to his car and he called in and turned himself in, versus, you know, just a lot of people would probably just leave it, you
Right,
know, and
right.
just leave it. And that thing would have been wasted. But he did the right thing. He called in. So I get there and, you know, he hadn't gone and found the animal yet. It had ran off.
Mm-hmm.
And we walked out to where he had shot it and you could see a little bit of blood and we started tracking it. But it was actually really difficult because it was snowing so hard. It was covering the trail up really fast.
Oh,
To the point where I was like, man, I don't know. Maybe he didn't hit it very hard, you know, because I wasn't really seeing any blood anymore. But we tracked it and we found it just into the woods out of the clear cut. And I mean, you guys have the moose there. It's a nice moose.
Yeah, it is.
It's about a 48-inch spread.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big, very mature moose. And he was a local guy, and it was interesting because he's like, yeah, I'm the guy that, reads the outdoor news and sees these stories of, some deer hunter being an idiot and mistaking something for an elk. And I always say, what the crap, like what kind of idiot would do that? And he's like, no, I'm the idiot.
Yeah.
So, obviously that's a mistake that should never happen, right?
Right.
You should never, ever, ever mistake a deer for a moose or an elk or something like that. I mean, that again, firearm safety 101,
Right.
Be sure of your target and what is beyond. He was not sure of his target. He should have never taken that shot, but he did,
Right.
Stuff happens. And because of how he handled it, we were able to work with him a little bit.
Okay.
He still got charged.
Well, yeah.
He still had to sit out a few years of big game hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And he had to pay the replacement, restitution cost of this moose.
Mm-hmm.
But, I didn't seize his gun. I worked with the county attorney a little bit because taking a moose right now, we don't have a moose season. Taking a moose is a gross misdemeanor. And they kind of, popped that down to a misdemeanor for him because of his honesty.
Right.
Obviously he doesn't keep the moose. We were able to donate that moose and whatnot. But, so I wouldn't call it, it's not a poacher story,
Right.
but it's a story about a human element that we can control. Again, that should have never happened.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, I'll just kind of share for the listeners, so how it ended up in the MDHA hands, I thought, man, this is way too cool of an animal to not do something with.
Right.
And our department didn't, wasn't interested or didn't have the funds or whatever to do something with it. So I approached the MDHA, and I appreciate you guys seeing the value in this and taking this on. And so they basically, MDHA took it and then had a taxidermist do a really nice European mount and mount it on a plaque and then display it. And I think you guys bring it to shows or different things maybe, or that's the
we've had
idea.
it a few places.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I come get it from time to time to use different public speaking engagements or firearm safety classes. It's, it's a big hit because it's a neat animal and people see this and
it's huge.
There's a story behind it. And again, it's something that people can learn from. I think it, helps maybe people understand that, okay, if you do make a mistake and you take responsibility for it, we can work with that, but if that guy would have shot that thing and left it, and then all of a sudden, you see the birds and you come by and here's this, wasted moose, like that's a terrible thing. That'd be, hopefully anybody with a conscience wouldn't be able to live with that. Right. But that kind of stuff, it happens. So,
So what do you do with those animals? I mean, you said you donate it. Where does that go?
Well, so actually currently under the way things are right now, if just say, for example, a roadkill moose, being that we're in the 1854 ceded territory, we contact one of their conservation officers. And if they have somebody available to respond, they get first dibs on it. Now, a lot of times, they don't have a lot of personnel, so they aren't available. So then, if the driver wants it, we can issue them a tag for it, or beyond that, like I kind of have a list of people that I know would be willing to come out late at night or whatever. Everybody wants a moose until they have to come out and take care of it.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
But this particular one, like I had a guy that I knew from Ely that he's a great guy, a friend of mine, and the meat doesn't end up at like the food shelf, but his wife is a executive director of the food shelf in Ely. So they know a lot of needy families. So he's willing to come out and take care of it. And then
she helps disperse it to the people that want it.
Yeah. They're able to bless some families with that are in need. And I'm sure they ate some of it, and it gets utilized in a good way.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And really, all our animals that we seize, if they're in good shape at all, whether it be fish or deer or whatever, like I give a lot of animals away over the course of the year. And it's actually kind of fun, in a way, because, obviously bummer for the people that are losing it, but they deserve that.
Right.
But it's not being wasted. I've got, few fish. I can bring it to an old neighbor of mine that, appreciates it, or, bigger quantities of fish and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I brought across over to assisted living near my house, and
That's great.
And the old ladies are always like, "Oh, you're bringing this time walleyes," like they appreciate it, they like it. So
no, that's awesome.
We always try to, it's almost the Robin Hood philosophy, right?
Right.
Take from the greedy and give to the needy,
Yep.
and give it to people who appreciate it.
Wow,
So,
yeah, it's much better than letting
That's
it go to waste for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I suppose we should. I know you're a busy guy, and we'll probably let you go. But before I let you go, I mean, obviously, we mentioned that this weekend is firearm opener here in Minnesota for deer. Do you have anything you want to tell people right now? I mean, because this will be out before our opener. So,
okay.
What do you want these people to know?
Sure. Well, hopefully everybody enjoys it. Obviously, this is going to be the kind of the canned answer, but safety, right? I mean, it is important, and it's a good reminder because anybody can get complacent. And if you've been out in the woods for years and years and years, a lot of times you probably haven't picked up a regulations book for a period of time. Maybe pick that up and look things over, at least the what's new section. Make sure that there's nothing that has, changed that you're not aware of, because things do change, especially with the permit area designations. That would probably be one of the biggest things I would like, people to be reminded of, is look online or get that fold out map and look at what the permit area designations are, because they do change. And that's certainly something I've seen over the years where it's like, oh, well, last year it was this. Well, you didn't bother to look this year? No. Or the other thing would be, look at your licenses and make sure you got the right thing, because something I see very often over the years is people go to a gas station or something like that. They'll ask for, a doe license or a deer license. And if the person behind the counter doesn't know,
Right.
They might find something on the machine that looks like the right thing, and they'll print it out. And if the person buying it doesn't look at it, they may end up with something they didn't expect.
Right.
All of a sudden they got a bonus tag instead of a regular deer
tag.
license, or, something like that. So I just encourage people to, be safe, but also look at those regulations and look at your licenses and just make sure you have the right thing, because it does fall back on the hunter. And
right.
So,
and if they have questions, because I know I've been through the reg book, I mean, as we all have, and it's like, who writes this? I don't understand this. So I'm sure, calling, your local CEO and be like, hey, can you explain this to me? I'm sure you guys get that all the time.
We get a lot of questions like that, and that's great. I would much rather have people ask the question than,
ask before.
Deal with it afterwards.
Yep. And then obviously we have like a staffed info line for the DNR too that can answer a lot of questions, but
help with it.
I don't mind getting calls. Sometimes we get a little bit bombarded in these busy seasons. And so if we don't answer, leave a message, or like I said, maybe try that info line if it's just a general question.
Yeah, general. Yep.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I suppose we can let you get on your way. We appreciate your time.
Yeah,
and,
thanks for coming.
And we can have you back sometime to talk about some more stuff, because I'm sure I know I probably forgot to ask you some stuff. So
I think it'd be great to just have you back again. Just some cool stories, wild stories, stuff like that.
Oh, that'd be fun.
So we really appreciate your time. Appreciate what you do, and hopefully your deer season isn't too horrible. And
well, here's the way I look at it. Like, again, it's not great when people are out there breaking the law, but I know there are people, right? So it's nice. Like, I like catching people,
right? Yeah.
Because I know there are people out there doing stuff they're not supposed to. So you hope that when they are, I'm in the right place at the right time. But I appreciate that. And thanks for having me on, guys.
We appreciate you.
Yeah. So you hear that, Ely, Babbitt area, watch out, follow the laws.
Look out.
He's looking for you. He's going to get you. All right. Thanks a lot, Anthony.
Yep, thank you.
Yep.
The Minnesota Deer Hunters Association has been building our hunting and conservation legacy over the past 40 plus years through habitat, education, advocacy, and legislation in Minnesota for Minnesota.
The Minnesota Deer Hunters Association and wolf.report proudly sponsor this podcast. However, please note that the opinions, topics, and guests featured may not necessarily align with the views, beliefs, goals, or mission of our sponsors.